Here we go with the first fight of the evening on Thursday Night Boxing, brought to you by Jimmy Birchfield's Classic Entertainment and Sports. I'm Pat Sullivan, my broadcast partner tonight, Greg Rebello, live from Lincoln, Rhode Island. First fight, John Smith. You see him here with the black shorts and the red trim coming out of the red corner. Across the ring, DINIS Sweetbread Piava Jr. in the black trunks and the black socks coming out of the blue corner. Greg, we got John Smith, who's a 3-time New England Gold Gloves champion. Everybody's been waiting for him to make his pro debut. On the other side of the ring, we have a guy making his second pro debut. He's a pro MMA fighter with a record of 2-3. Talk about the different styles here.
Yes, John has got a huge amateur background. I mean, he's had a ton of fights, like you said, with the Golden Gloves and all that. DINIS PIAVA, being an MMA fighter, you know, obviously he's used to more of the wrestling and you know, looking for takedowns and stuff like that. It's going to be a much different style. But DINIS is no slouch, man. He's got good stand-up. He definitely doesn't have the credentials that John has as far as boxing goes. But this could be interesting. John's definitely got the height and the reach advantage.
DINIS PIAVA has fought here 5 times, albeit all in a cage, with that record of 2-3. Certainly a guy who's never turned down a fight in the cage. When he was offered a boxing fight, he was the first person in his camp that said, let's get it on. So here he is now in a little unorthodox stance going against John Smith, who, as you mentioned, a 3-time NE Gold Gloves champion. Been trying to make his pro debut for a while, and now he's in there right here in his home state of Rhode Island.
Yeah, DINIS is looking good, though. He's got his hands up. He likes to play that lead jab hand. He likes to leave that down a lot. He plays that style on the MMA fights. Here against John, I don't think he's going to play that, but he's got a fast jab. He's going to have to look to get in on John a little bit. He's got that reach advantage, and he's obviously using those combinations right now so far.
You see the crowd getting into it here for John Smith, and one thing that's going to be a lot different for Piava here, when you're a boxer and you're throwing combinations, it's probably a lot easier just to go with the 1s and 2s. When you're a pro MMA fighter and you're throwing combinations, you not only throw 1s and 2s, but you follow it with kicks and feints, and it's going to be completely different for Piava here to get a good string of punches together.
Absolutely, too. And with Piava, he's known as one of a good striker for his weight class in MMA. So most guys, when he throws 1-2s and comes forward, they look to take him down. So obviously, that's not going to be the case tonight.
Minute 15 to go here in the opening round of a scheduled 4 between these 2 welterweights.
Little headbutt.
It's another thing you see with a lot of MMA fighters when they come into boxing, because you can get so close without actually tying up like you would in an MMA fight. You see a lot of headbutts come up.
Yep,
not being used to coming that close and having the hands in tight.
And it's a totally different ballgame. You know, when you're in that clinch in MMA, you know, you're used to the wrestling, getting underhooks. A lot of these guys like to work the body. You're going to see John Smith throw a lot of body punches. He's going to punch out of a clinch. It's going to be things that DINIS is going to have to adapt to. But he's doing pretty well so far. He's got a good stance. He's moving pretty well. He kind of seems like he's looking for that one big shot. But John Smith is really utilizing that jab and using his distance really well.
You look at this fight here. John Smith has a lot more to lose in his pro debut than DINIS PIAVA. DINIS obviously is focusing his career on MMA. He has a fight coming up in December. For John Smith, this is a very highly anticipated pro debut here for a guy who's had so much success as an amateur, works out of a good camp in Rhode Island. So for him, he has a lot more at stake than DINIS PIAVA, who's really only doing this just to test the waters here in boxing.
Oh, absolutely. No, he's just a tough kid. He's no stranger to big fights. But definitely, John Smith is a guy there's a lot of hype behind him. I've been hearing about this kid for a long time. And there's definitely a lot of people here to see him make his pro debut.
Good fights ahead here at Twin River Casino, brought to you by Jimmy Birchfield's Classic Entertainment and Sports. This is the 4th installment of the Thursday Night Boxing Series, brought to you by Twin River and CES. Talk about that first round, Greg. And Piava obviously came out with the intention to throw that big punch, but he didn't look rattled at all by what John Smith was throwing. He knew that John throws a lot of punches. He doesn't have the power of a veteran boxer yet, but he knows that he's experienced and he's not going to back down. But Piava looked like he didn't care about any of that stuff.
No, absolutely. I mean, Piava's got the experience of fighting. Obviously, getting there with a boxer that's got the credentials that John does, it's going to be a little bit different. But yeah, he looked good. He was covering up pretty well. He was moving around well, and he was firing back. Every time John threw, he covered up and fired back.
One thing you got to like about Piava, he's such a loyal guy. You see in his corner, he has Keith Allen, who's his MMA instructor, and some of the other guys that work in his corner when he steps in the cage, and he brought them along with boxing. So Piava certainly bringing the whole fan and family out here with him.
Oh, absolutely. See, John Smith's really using that jab. He's setting up for his combinations. He's good fast hands. But Dennis is still moving well. He's moving out of those punches. Both guys taking their time, though. John's not in any big rush.
John Smith, who fought as a welterweight, as an amateur, where he won those Gold Glove championships. Paiva actually competes in the bantamweight division in mixed martial arts at 135 pounds, but also in the past calendar year, he's fought at 138, 145, and even 155, Greg. So the weight cut obviously was a lot easier for Paiva, who probably walks around closer to 150. So get to 146 probably has really no bearing on how he's feeling right now.
Yeah, no, I talked to him earlier this week, and he definitely wasn't struggling with his weight. That's definitely not an issue. And like you said before, he's had a lot of experience fighting bigger guys. You know, so the length and the size of John is definitely not going to be an issue with Dennis. He's definitely been there before. But he's still looking to counter. John's kind of coming in and out with that jab, and Dennis is looking to throw that one big shot. He's got to utilize that jab and try to get in a little bit more if he's going to land that.
Pair of pro debut fighters, John Smith in the black trunks with the red trim, and Dennis Paiva in the all black shorts.
John's keeping that good distance. He's using his jab really well. He's keeping Dennis on the outside. When he lands that jab, then he follows up with that cross.
He's doing a good job when Dennis does come back up and throws those combinations. You see, going from MMA to boxing, that technique's not technically there for Paiva, but he does throw some hard punches.
Yep.
You see John's doing really well defending him.
Absolutely. He's really coming in and out. You know, he throws his combinations and he gets out of there, and Dennis is just looking for him. He's trying to find him with those punches, but he can't. But so far, so good. You know, Dennis is getting in there. He's covering up pretty well, and he's firing back. But as you can see, John is definitely, you know, really comfortable here at this distance and throwing his punches and his combinations are really crisp. Nice body shot. But both guys still kind of taking their time. Nobody's really committed too much.
And it's good to see the patience out of John Smith in his pro debut.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of guys, when they come out in their very first pro fight, you take the headgear off, and they're looking for that knockout punch.
Absolutely.
It's not always there in the amateur with the headgear. And when you take those off, you see a lot of guys coming on here and swinging for the fences. But John's taking his time here. I think he probably knows how tough Dennis is.
Absolutely, and especially when he's in his hometown. He's got his hometown crowd and all his friends and family here to see him make his pro debut. You know, I'm sure he's just as nervous as Dennis is as well to take this fight. But he's starting to land a couple of good shots. Dennis is covering up, but you can see Dennis is taking some shots here.
That's the end of round number 2. We're halfway through the opening fight here, and the first fight of both Paiva and John Smith's boxing career. And I think towards the end of that round, you really saw what John Smith is made out of. The endurance for boxing must be completely different than the endurance for MMA.
Absolutely. With MMA, there's a lot more level changes. There's a lot more wrestling. So you obviously got to, be able to adapt, to guys that are just going to be breaking out of clinches and throwing punches at you rather than breaking out of a clinch and trying to take you down. It's a lot different. It's a totally different sport. So Dennis is obviously learning that right now. John hasn't stopped throwing punches. He's throwing punches and bunches, and his combinations look great. So it's a lot different. But Dennis is doing all right. He's doing good. And you hear Keith Allen in this corner. He's giving Dennis good advice. He's telling him that, you need to pressure him, and if you're going to land one of these shots, you've got to start getting in on him. I think he's down a couple of rounds, so he's got to start pressuring him if he wants to land these shots. John Smith has excellent footwork. He comes in and out very well.
You saw at the end of that round, Dennis, right as the bell rang, went right over to John Smith and obviously said that he's having a lot of fun. And I'm not going to say in the air exactly what he said, but he's certainly having a lot of fun in there in his pro debut.
Well, these guys are both from Rhode Island, you know what I mean? I'm sure they're both, no animosity towards each other. They're both just having a little bit of fun in there.
And yesterday at the weigh-in, when photographer Kelly McDonald asked him to do a stare down, Dennis was just smiling. He said, "I don't even know you. I can't be mad at you. I'm doing this because I like the sport and I want to compete at a high level." So the two of them both shook hands, and certainly no animosity.
No, absolutely. You got to appreciate guys like that who will just take fights just because they're tough guys that love to fight and love to compete. Nice right hand. He definitely hit Dennis with a good shot there. He's starting to land more punches, but Dennis fires right back.
Dennis certainly not backing down.
No, he's definitely not backing down.
The experience here for John Smith as a boxer is going to pick up in the last round.
Yeah, you can see him stalking him. John's just really taking his time, but he's really starting to come to the body. And he does an excellent job leveling, changing his levels with his punches. He comes to the body, then he comes back to the head.
And in the first round and a half, Greg, you saw Dennis was able to stay in the center of the ring and trade punches. Now you see Smith trying to control the center of the ring
and Dennis is starting to back up
towards the corner.
He's starting to stalk Dennis down into the corner. He's cutting down that ring, and that's when he's going to start flooring and landing big punches. Nice, good shot to the body. But again, Dennis is still coming forward. He's still right there. He's still throwing that jab. But Keith Allen, in between rounds, is telling him he's got to start pressuring him. He's got to start moving forward.
Especially when you're giving up that reach advantage.
Absolutely.
You're going to have to find a way
nice left hand by John Smith. Well, but here comes Piva firing right back.
You got to love that. When
Absolutely.
John Smith comes forward with a 4-punch combination, Piva just comes right up and throws 3 or 4 more back.
Absolutely. But Piva, again, is looking for those big shots. He's just throwing really, really wide hooks when he's coming back at him. As you see, John Smith's punches are straight right down the pipe, and then he follows up and finishes to the body.
Under a minute to go here in round number 3 of a schedule 4 between Piva and Smith. Piva did a good job there of tying up, and Smith looked like he was gaining a little momentum.
Absolutely. He's got to do that. As soon as John Smith starts to fire off, Piva's got to clinch up with him, or he's got to get out of there. Nice left hand, straight down the pipe. Good, nice shot to the body. It's nice to see a couple of southpaws going out of there.
Piva, who's never been knocked out as a cage fighter. Going to continue his streak here. This is his 6th professional fight here at Twin River. See the end of round number 3, going into the 4th and final round. And at that end of the round, you can certainly see that the endurance level right there for John Smith is just a little bit higher than Dennis Piva. Also,
Absolutely.
he's throwing a little more punches, so he's getting inside on Piva more. But you could tell at the end of that round that Piva is starting to feel the effects of being a professional boxer.
Well, as you can see, Piva's definitely game, but he's still looking for that one big shot. As John's setting up his punches off of the jab, and he's finishing to the body, and he's getting out of there. So Piva's pretty much swinging to there. He's not able to connect because of John's footwork. But John's doing an excellent job coming in and out.
John's been doing a great job of covering up. He knows that when he throws those first 3 or 4 punches, that Piva's going to come right back and try to swing wildly at him. But John's doing a good job getting those hands up by his head and making sure that if those hit, they hit at the elbows.
And John Smith's box coach, Brian Panacchia, a great trainer. And he's saying the exact same thing as what he's done in the second round. Keep that combination going and keep finishing to the body. To the body, you keep throwing those body shots, they just build up and build up and build up, and that really kills stamina, towards the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds of a fight.
4th and final round between Dennis Piva and John Smith, and you're going to love to see that in the center of the ring. Ref tells him to go touch gloves for the last round. They both give each other a hug and a smile. If you're John Smith, you really have to appreciate the work that Dennis is giving you right now.
An MMA fighter coming in against a 3-time Golden Gloves champ and his first pro debut boxing match. I mean, you gotta love Dennis Piva.
For a guy that had the credentials of John Smith coming into his pro fight, he could have probably fought any guy that got off the street at his weight class and got out there and got an easy win.
Absolutely.
He obviously knew that Piva was going to be a game opponent, and they both look like they're having fun out there.
No, absolutely. But that's probably, that's what John Smith wants. He's got a ton of experience. He's a great boxer. He's going to be one of those kids that's going to get right into those tough fights. Again, using that really long jab, stepping right into it. Yeah, and you got to see John Smith keeps going back to that body. He'll keep utilizing that jab. Once he lands that left hand, that right hook to the body comes right back down.
He's doing a great job of using the jab to keep distance. You'd like to see if he could follow it up with an overhand. Piva's doing a pretty good job of blocking that second punch.
Absolutely, because that long jab, it makes it really difficult for Piva to get in on him. Like Keith Allen said, he wants him to close that distance to land that big shot, but it's very difficult with a long jab like that, especially when he doubles it up and throws a left hand behind it. Good, nice left hand again, off the double jab.
You hear Piva's corner saying, get busy. It's going to be tough to get busy when you get that long jab coming in.
Absolutely. Because, you either got to, try to commit in and land a big shot like a big overhand or a big right hook, but it's difficult. And John is really doing very well doubling up that jab.
Minute 15 to go here in the 4th and final round between these welterweights, both making their pro debut. John Smith from nearby Cranston, Rhode Island. Dennis Piva from East Providence, Rhode Island, so a pair of roadie boys.
Nice jab by Dennis.
Yeah, Dennis may miss on some of his combinations, but he just comes right back.
Absolutely, yeah. Dennis is a tough guy, man. He covers up and comes right back. But John's, egging him on.
Dennis now looks like he's having a little more fun than John in the last 40 seconds. And for Dennis, he obviously knows John Smith has controlled this fight. He's going to walk away with his hand raised unless he gets a knockout here in the last 30 seconds. But Piava just ended up having fun.
Yeah, he's doing a good job slipping out of these punches. He's, he's taking a little bit of punishment, but he's covering up well. And more importantly, he's coming forward. He's firing back. The length and the size and the great footwork of John Smith is really giving Dinis Piava some trouble, and obviously it's giving him a much different look than he's used to inside the cage.
So what a fun fight to start off this Thursday night here at Twin River. Two game opponents in there having fun and competing at a high level here. You see the mutual respect between the two fighters at the end of round number 4. Greg, I don't think there's any doubt that John Smith is going to earn his first pro victory here.
Absolutely, no. I mean, great fight.
Hats off to Dinis Piava.
Absolutely. I mean, great fight from both these guys. Dinis Piava obviously learned a lot in that boxing debut, and as you can see, John Smith is a very skilled guy, and it's not just hype behind that. He's definitely a very skilled guy, and he's going to be a very good pro.
Now for Dinis Piava, when he goes back to the cage in December and continues his MMA career, what experience can he take away from this and bring it into the other sport?
Well, I mean, it's obviously a lot different. Dennis is used to guys shooting on his legs because he's a good striker. It depends on obviously who he fights, but going back to the cage, it's going to be totally different because now obviously he's probably not going to be used to guys just standing up there and punching out of the clinch. So he's definitely going to adapt well, obviously back to MMA. But tonight was definitely a totally different experience for him. But like you said, too, fighting a guy that has such good hands like John Smith, it definitely is going to give Dennis something to work on. Because he's pretty much known as a good striker in MMA, and he just he did get outclassed a little bit, and John Smith is obviously an excellent boxer, and it's definitely Dennis knows what he needs to do as far as striking goes. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets right back in the boxing gym, and he's definitely going to know what he needs to work on after this experience.
And you got to think now he has even more confidence in his stand-up, knowing that a guy like John Smith can't knock him out, and although he did tag him with some good punches, Dennis really didn't get hit with too many power punches.
No,
he got hit
absolutely.
with the jab, obviously John Smith being 3-4 inches taller than him, but he still did pretty good in there when he was getting hit by those punches.
And the biggest thing, too, is when he took those punches, he fired back. You know what I mean?
We go ready here for the decision. Let's send it down to Bill Carpenter.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 4 rounds of boxing, let's go to the judges' scorecards for your official decision. Judge Bill Moran scores the bout 39-37. Judges Eddie Scungio and Robin Taylor both score it 40-36. All 3 judges scoring for your winner by unanimous decision, John Smith.